I was so big that I forgot how to run. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I could run up steps, but if you asked me to like run 100 meters, I couldn't do it because it was just too awkward. My legs were not the same legs that I was using when I was a runner. Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle rant. Today's topic is getting hurt doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. I don't know if any of you guys have looked at Larry Wheel's Instagram lately. I mean, why wouldn't you? He's got over 1 million followers, several million followers for that matter. The guy is one of the most entertaining guys on the internet. He's also one of the most strongest guys I've ever seen. Lifting in person, I've seen him. And all the crazy stunts he does on his Instagram. Larry's also a super nice guy, and he's one of the good guys who is really representing our sport well and making it more popular to the mainstream America. Actually worldwide. Having said that, if you looked at the one of the latest videos he put up, it was a video of him arm wrestling a guy, and I talked to his manager, Adam Silver, about the video. And it's a very graphic video, and I don't know if I'm going to put the whole thing up. I haven't decided yet, but they're arm wrestling, and you can tell Larry's not even really putting much pressure on this guy's arm at all. And all of a sudden, like, Larry exerts like a little bit of pressure, and the guy's arm snaps. And from what I understand, it was a spiral fracture, which is like a twisting fracture, very common in the humerus bone here. Whenever it breaks, it's usually like a torquing movement that kind of breaks it. Now, this supposedly happened a couple of months ago. A lot of people think it just happened. I thought it just happened, but Adam told me it was a few months ago. So the guy's already healed up. But the lesson to be learned here is, first of all, I thought Larry broke his arm when I first heard about the video going up. And I was happy to hear that it wasn't Larry. Larry doesn't need any more injuries. But you know, Larry's a super strong guy, and even messing around just lightly, you can really hurt yourself. I remember when Victor Martinez, and this wasn't Victor's fault, but it was his fault for even messing around. But they talked Victor, I forget where he was. I don't know if he was in Mexico. He was somewhere in another country, and they were messing around with arm wrestling. And they're like, "Come on, arm wrestle Victor." You know how people start peer pressuring you. And I don't think Victor really wanted to do it because I think the guy was a real arm wrestler, and the guy broke Victor's arm. Another tragic, accident that set Victor back in his career. And he took it really well. I mean, as far as I know, I didn't hear him bitching and complaining too much about it. He just, sucked it up. But you can't do stuff that's not related to bodybuilding, okay? If you're going to be a bodybuilder. Weird movements like arm wrestling, and let me tell you something. I got sucked into it. This is a true story. I was married once before, and when I was younger, but I was dating my ex at the time, and I think we'd only been really going out for a month or something like that. And she took me to this like bar she would hang out at with her friends, and there was a guy in there who was a friend of hers. And I don't even know how this. And I was working. I was competing. I had just started competing. Really, I wasn't really that into it. But I was probably like 230. Which is pretty big for the average person. And I don't know if she wanted to show me off or what, but she's like, this guy was arm wrestling a bunch of people there. And she's like, oh, you should arm wrestle Dave, my boyfriend. And I'm like, I don't want to get involved in it. Because I know that you can get hurt doing these things. But, just started dating her. I had to stick up for my manhood. and I arm wrestled the guy, and I beat him several times because when you beat someone and no one else had beat them, they want to do a lefty, and you know what? I did tweak my shoulder. I didn't hurt myself at all. I probably hurt him more than he hurt me, but I could have hurt myself. And that's when I was really, dedicating myself 100% to bodybuilding. And I did tweak my shoulder a little bit. And I said afterwards, that was the stupidest thing. And I told her, I said, don't get me into any arm wrestling matches with anyone anymore. I said, because I don't want to get hurt. Even if you win, you could still get hurt, And so the moral of the story is, don't do things that could predispose you to injury. Now, I don't really know what this other guy was doing with Larry, if they were just messing around or if the guy was really an arm wrestler or what, but Larry's a big guy, and if you look at the video, he's a lot bigger than this guy. I wouldn't arm wrestle Larry. I wouldn't do anything with Larry. Larry is like Superman. He doesn't know his own strength. He's so strong that even a little pressure from Larry is like, from the average person, it's like 10 times that. And that's what a genetic freak is. That's why, when you watch these guys play football on TV, it ain't like that in person. Go watch a football game. Go to a high school football game and watch and listen to the pops when these guys hit each other, the shoulder pads bang into each other. You will be horrified by the sound of the hits that these guys impact each other with. And you'll think twice about, football ain't that hard. Okay, so everyone in their particular sport is an expert, especially at the elite level. And they've got there because they've taken the necessary steps to get up there. So you don't go and mess around with a professional in another, sport or another profession when you haven't really, learned the ropes, so to speak, because that's when you get hurt, okay? It's the same thing about, you see the bodybuilder go play a volleyball game on the beach. He tears a Achilles tendon, or he tears his shoulder up, tears a bicep, because his body is not trained in that motion. And that's just the way it is. When I was bodybuilding, when I was at my biggest, I didn't even know how to run anymore. I couldn't run. Imagine that. You can't run. I was so big that I forgot how to run. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I could run up steps, but if you asked me to run 100 meters, I couldn't do it because it was just too awkward. My legs were not the same legs that I was using when I was a runner. And probably had I tried to sprint 100 meters, at 300 and whatever pounds, I probably would have torn a hamstring or torn something, And so you can't go around doing things that you're not ready to do, okay? Trust me, I see so many freak accidents. Ask anyone who's had a muscle tear how they tore it. Very few people tell you they did it in the gym. It's I slipped on the ice, I was going to grab someone and someone hit me in the arm and my bicep tore. It's one after the other of freak accidents that happen, and that's how you get hurt. Now, you can't prevent the freak accident, obviously, but if you're actively engaging in an activity that is not your forte, a la Colin Van Moger trying to rappel down the side of a mountain, okay? And that's when he retore his bicep and his patella tendon. You're looking for trouble. It's gonna happen. I see it over and over again. And you know what? I was one of these guys as a kid who was always getting hurt, accident prone. Always split my head. I'm not talking about hurt playing sports. I'm talking about running into something with my head and splitting my head open, cutting my hand with a knife on Thanksgiving and having to go to the hospital and get stitches. Oh, I was always ruining holidays for my relatives. I feel really bad because I was a crazy maniac, and as my grandmother would say, a Vildahaya, which means a little maniac, and I would do stupid things. And so I learned as a kid, because my father would always say to me, you gotta think before you act. If you're gonna be an athlete, he says, you can't be doing stupid, crazy stuff. And you know what? He was right. And that always stuck in my head. So all the injuries and all the things that happened to me as a child, I said, no, it's not gonna happen when I start bodybuilding or when I was a runner, because I knew better. And his voice was in my head telling me that. And I knew that I had already learned the hard way as a young kid. So take my advice. Look at this video and watch. That could be you. It happened to Victor Martinez. You don't want it to happen to you. Don't do silly, goofy stunts just for your Instagram or to impress a girl like I did, or to impress your friends. It's not worth it. Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle Rant.